Hi, I'm Mandheer. This is Vasavi. We are going to talk about categorization uh, and how we do it and how the classical theories that existed try to explain categorization. So categorization basically refers to the process in which we try to categorize. We try to group things together. We can look at a cat and then say that that's a cat. They're putting it in the cat category. We can see a car and we can say that this is not a cat. We are categorizing it as not being a part of that category. So we can basically group objects together. So how do we do it? How does our brain decide what is a cat and what is not a cat? So there are various theories as to why that is. There's the prototype theory, there's the classical theory. We are going to talk about the classical theory. Wasabi?
Yes, the first one is the classical theory that defines a category in terms of set of necessary and sufficient conditions. So an object is considered as a category when it must fulfill those conditions. If we take an example of bachelor, for the bachelor to be considered as a category, where he should be unmarried and he should be an adult and he should be a male. So this is the classical theory, and there are some problems existing here also. The first problem is going to tell by Mandir.
Yeah, so there are many problems with it. The biggest problem, which I, well, not the biggest problem, but a problem that we're going to talk about is the definitional problem. Basically, trying to come up with sufficient definition, sufficient and uh, necessary definitions is difficult. Necessary conditions is difficult. It is very difficult to do that. They can because you can always come up with many exceptions to many rules that you come up with. There's a very famous story of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, where he tried to define a man. So he tried to define man as a featherless bipedal organism. He didn't say organism. He said a featherless biped. He didn't say that. He said it in Greek, but whatever. So his rival Diogenes, who hated his guts, he came in and then he basically brought in a plugged chicken with him, and that kind of is the problem. Like, it meets the criteria but it is an exception. It is not supposed to be a man. So any categories you make like this, like with proper definitions, with proper conditions, you can, and tends to be very easy to find objects that should not belong to that definition, is what the problem is. The next problem she's going to talk about.
Yes, the next problem is the problem of conceptual fudginess, where there is always the categories don't have a clear-cut boundaries. Uh, like, is the carpet a part of furniture? We always have doubt that. Even though it's a part of furniture, but people always doubt that it is a part of it or not because of the confusion that it don't have a clear-cut boundaries. That is the second problem. And there is a third problem which is again going to tell by Mandir.
So the third problem that we are going to talk about is the problem of typicality. So basically, in a category, in a category, when we perceive them, we consider some objects in a category to be better examples of that category than other objects. In the case of birds, we consider a sparrow to be a better example of a bird than an ostrich. We consider crows to be better than herons. We consider herons to be a better example than an ostrich. So this is a problem of typicality, where some of examples are considered to be more typical than others. This is a problem because typicality does not really have a place in classical theory. There's no, so you cannot really, so there's no place for it. It's either in a category or not in a category. So that's the problem of typicality. The next problem is the problem of psychological reality, which again she's going to say.
Yes, in the problem of psychological reality. So when there are experiments happen, the structures denoted by this theory doesn't turn up. Let's take an example. So according to this theory, the simpler definitional structures would be expected to be recognized quickly in comparison to more complex definitions that has not been observed experimentally. So another problem is of ignorance and error.
So the problem of ignorance and error is basically that we can is not necessarily related to categorization. It is related to concept formation in our brain. It is again against the theory. So it is basically that if we have an incorrect concept, if we conceptualize something incorrectly, if we do not understand the definition of it, if we are ignorant of it, or if we make an error, we still form that concept. So forming a proper definition is not a part uh, of basically conceptualization and categorization. It's another part of it. Thank you.